Salut YouTube, nouvel épisode de Star Trek, du coup. Résurgence. Carter est blessé. Les sous-titres sont à chier. On sait pas ce qui se passe. Et voilà quoi. Supprimer. Non, continue. Et là, on se fait engueuler par le chef. Parce qu'on a désobéi.
The repair crew made it inside. EPS flow is back to nominal levels. The SIF is back up.
How does this affect mission readiness, Mr. Ermont?
Releasing the docking clamps using hull polarity minimized damage to the Resolute. We'll have some last-minute repairs to make, but if we reapportion some of the staff, we can make our departure on time. As of now, however, we are successfully moored to the station.
Good to hear. Send updates to my ready room. Commander Rydek, with me. You disobeyed my orders. Well?
Respectfully, Captain, I made the right choice given the information
You
I had.
disobeyed my orders! And not just in front of the bridge crew, but the Starbase staff as well. That's going to get around. My name's already tarnished around the fleet. But
Yeah,
what is
is
it
he
going to do
tarnished?
to my credibility on this ship? From the top to the bottom. Bridge to lower decks.
Captain, I told you I'd be honest.
Du coup, il se passe quoi? La colère du capitaine Sandler après que ses ordres ont été bafoués s'est aggravée avec l'attitude rebelle et bornée de Jarrah envers son commandement, l'amenant à s'interroger sur son choix de l'avoir prise en tant que premier officier. Aïe, aïe, aïe,
So here
aïe.
it is. Maybe I shouldn't have disobeyed a direct order, but you were wrong. You weren't on board and you didn't have all the information. So I made the right decision for the ship. If you're worried about your credibility, put your ego aside and trust your crew. Trust me.
You might have won some fans on the bridge with that stunt, but not everyone. Lieutenant Commander Chovak has already bent my ear.
I'm sure he doesn't take it personally. He'll get over it in time.
Mr. Chovak is more complicated than he would want to admit. I guess we all are. And, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure what I would have done in the moment either. You never really know if you weren't in those shoes. So, let's just boil it down to you did what you had to. That'll have to be good enough for me.
Non, j'hésite
Thank you
entre
for
la Y et la
understanding,
X.
sir. I'm sure no one knows the burden of command as well as you do.
I'm sure you will, someday.
Oh bah ça va beaucoup mieux, il est pas si
Despite
bien
it
avec ça.
all, we got our final Starfleet clearance to depart. So if you'll fetch Mr. Ermont, we'll knock out the final details of any outstanding repairs, and then we'll set out for Hotari.
Yes, sir.
Boulevard des étoiles.
All departments reporting full mission readiness. We've got our full complement on board.
This is my favorite moment, right now.
The start of a new mission is always full of possibility.
The Orion Syndicate could sell it as a drug.
Don't let the Admiralty hear you say that.
Captain on the bridge.
Sit. Sit, everyone. You all know, I'm not big on speeches. We're embarking on the first mission since our refit. Let's make it a good one. Disengage docking clamps.
Putain, mais c'est trop bizarre que les sous-titres, ils s'étaient devenus complètement fous là, avec Carter qui se fait appeler Chartier.
Docking clamps released.
Thrusters ahead, Mr. Handar. set a course for the Hotari system. Prepare to go to Warp 8.
Aye, Captain.
You know what? You take this one.
Me?
Engagement. Enfin, engage.
Engage.
Putain, ça y est, bah, je peux arrêter le jeu là. Moi, c'était tout ce que je voulais. C'était dire engage.
Simple, but effective.
Bon, ça va, il m'en veut pas.
Easy. Thank you. I'm fine. Really, You don't look so good.
Non, mais c'est juste... j'ai pas pris ma coke aujourd'hui.
I have to get to sickbay.
Go.
Commander, help me get her inside.
Oula.
Well, that was quite a scare. A few minutes more and it would have been one of the shortest tenures on record for a first officer.
Is that the engineer that was out on the hull?
That storm did a real number on him, but he'll live. Just needs rest. You should worry about yourself. Your deridium levels got dangerously low and destabilized your cell structure.
This is definitely one of the more memorable first days I can think of.
My name is Dr. Aram Duval, Chief Medical Officer. To be honest, I've never met a Kobliad before. You're...
Rare. I know.
I was going to say special. Your people's numbers have dwindled, despite the Federation's efforts to find a more readily available alternative to the deridium you need to survive. Yet you joined Starfleet, and managed to thrive. I imagine the responsibility must be overwhelming. Maybe even a burden at times.
C'est ma nature.
I know what it means. And I know the responsibility that comes with it. But I can't be anything more than who I am. And if someone has a problem with that, or expects something else, then that's their problem, not mine.
That's exactly right. And don't worry, I won't treat you like a science experiment. I just do the science and leave the experiments to Solano.
You don't agree with his methods?
I don't agree with his definition of acceptable risks. Not when the lives of your crew are at stake. My professional opinion is that the accident took a toll. More than he's willing to admit. He's overstressed, operating in the pressure cooker of his own mind. Which is never a good headspace when the lives of your crew are at stake. What concerns me is that now he's even further away from the thing he's been chasing his entire career. Breakthrough discovery. The major innovation. Something he can put his name on. The more the time passes and the further out of reach it gets, the more risk he'll be willing to take. People become blinded by their own ambition. I've seen it happen before.
Je ne laisserai pas
I
ça se
hear you.
produire.
But that's my job, isn't it? To make sure that doesn't happen. And we don't lose sight of the bigger picture.
Which is exactly why I'm so glad you're here. We need you now more than ever. And I have to give you credit for what happened on the bridge. It took guts to defy a direct order.
Huh. I guess word travels fast around here.
It's a small ship. And everyone's curious about the new XO. Fortunately, your cell structure is almost completely stabilized. And I'll spare us both the lecture, but I do feel it's my responsibility to remind you, without regular infusions of deridium, you will not live. It's as simple as that.
Understood.
And my work here is done.
Je peux même pas aller voir le blessé là?
Lieutenant Bedrosian.
I came to see if you were okay. We were all pretty worried on the bridge. No one knew what was happening.
Oh, elle est chou elle.
I'm feeling much better. Thank you. It's just part of who I am.
You don't have to explain to me. I understand. I'm just glad you're okay. You trusted me earlier with the shields, and I appreciated that. I want you to know that I have your back.
Thank you.
Now, Carter, the emissions that gave you that burn are quite unusual, like everything else that goes with this storm. That's the combination of hyronolin and lectrazine to counter the radiation effects. That should help speed your healing. She's come by a couple of times to see you already. Be brief.
It's good to see you awake again. I was starting to get worried. Not that you aren't in good hands with Dr. Duvall. You did take one hell of a shot, though.
I hear you've been checking in on me. Thanks for that.
One of the benefits of working a security rotation. Lots of opportunities to walk by sickbay and stop in. Millie was looking in on you too, by the way.
Putain, sa voix me dit tellement
But
quelque chose à
since
elle.
it's just us right now, I had a chance to think about this while I was away. And I thought it was important that I just come out and tell you. Instead of tiptoeing around it. Or worse, leaving it unsaid.
Tu m'aimes bien? Mais je pense que ça va pas être
It's
ça.
just a guess, but you like me. Is that what this is?
How'd you know? Must have been pretty obvious. Which is funny because kinda came out of nowhere for me at first.
Well, you know, I was hoping.
I guess that makes this a little easier to say. We've been really good friends for a long time. I want to see if there's more between us than just being friends.
Ouais, mais Nili,
You don't have to
Carter.
explain it. I feel the same way. There is something between us.
So, do you want to find out what that something is? If it's there for you, and it's there for me, why not give it a try?
Pourquoi je sens qu'il y a un énorme bait? je sais pas
Are you
pourquoi.
kidding me? I just said yes.
I wanted to be sure I heard that right.
Sorry to interrupt, but the patient
Non.
needs to rest.
Non, non, faites pas de bait.
If he wants to get back to his old.
Alors, Carter, du coup. Ah, donc là, ça y est, je viens de commencer une relation amoureuse avec...
I'll see you again soon.
La seule chose qui me fait un peu regretter, c'est sa coupe de cheveux, quand même. Je suis pas certain, là, pour la coupe de cheveux. Je suis même... un peu confus. Et je vois bien, d'ailleurs, à ses yeux, là, Carter qui regrette, peut-être. Il est un peu en mode, putain, mais est-ce que vraiment j'ai... Est-ce que vraiment c'était le bon choix?
Approaching the rendezvous point outside Atari space.
Helm, bring us out of warp.
Dropping to impulse.
De toute façon, les gens avec des moustaches dans les jeux, c'est souvent des gens pas bien.
Ionic
donc,
interference surging, Captain. Shield integrity holding.
We can take it.
We are at the correct coordinates to meet the shuttle.
Commander Rydek, find us our diplomat, if you will.
Aye, Captain.
Est-ce que le diplomate, ça va pas être un... Est-ce que ça va être un truc...
Filter out
Enfin, est-ce que
environmental
c'est un
signals.
personnage
I can
connu
manually tune what's left for Federation signal types. I've
Ça peut
located the
être un
shuttle.
personnage connu,
Opening
hein, un
comms.
Spock ou
On
un truc comme
screen.
ça.
Shuttle to Resolute. Shuttle to Resolute. Debris field. Lost maneuvering. Losing.
I can't get it any clearer. We won't get a transporter lock. It's just not happening.
Power up the tractor beam. We'll pull them directly into the docking bay.
Diaz, you good to run the tractor emitter?
Yes, sir.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Come on, Diaz. First thing, lock onto the shuttle and stabilize the rotation. We're pulling in debris.
I'm on it.
Oh putain.
That's gonna take out the shuttle. Thea's the bridge. There's a large piece of debris headed for the shuttle. The tractor beam can't handle it.
Can our shields take it?
I believe so.
Commander Rydek, plot an intercept course.
On it. Here we go. Maneuvering thrusters bearing 53 Mark 17, 200 meters on an intercept course.
Maneuvering.
Got it.
Whoa! Someone's working hard on the bridge.
Quand le mec derrière était vraiment trop content quoi.
We got the shuttlecraft on board.
Good job. We're on our way down to meet them.
Terra firma, so to speak.
Ambassador Spock.
Putain, il y a des chances en vrai hein, que ce soit.
The captain will be right down to meet you, sir.
In that case, I will wait for him here.
Apologies for the landing, Ambassador. I was operating the tractor beam, sir. I take responsibility.
Our arrival was the smoothest part of our journey. Your artistry with the tractor beam is commendable. We thought we were prepared for our arrival in Hotari space, but it is evident my craft was not sufficiently robust for such intense ionic activity.
The storm has been pretty intense.
There was an element that was most unusual. Before you came to our aid, our maneuvering thrusters and impulse engines were rendered inoperable. So we attempted a short traversal at warp speed, only to find that we could not achieve warp at all, even though our diagnostics computer showed no faults or anomalies. What do you make of that? When all indications say that warp speed is possible, but in practice, we find it is not.
Onboard diagnostics can be wrong. I can take a closer look at your shuttle systems to get to the bottom of it.
I would appreciate that.
Take readings, run some additional diagnostic checks, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
Quite logical, Petty Officer...
Carter Diaz. Sir.
Thank you.
Ça a
Ambassador
été
Spock,
saboté.
Excuse me.
I'm honored to have you aboard. I'd like to get right to it. We're already behind.
C'est dommage qu'ils aient pas gardé les transitions entre les persos comme il y avait au début. Mais en même temps, je peux comprendre que ce soit compliqué à faire à chaque fois.
Ambassador Spock, my senior staff. It's not every day that a captain gets to welcome a Starfleet legend aboard.
You flatter me, Captain Solano. But legend implies the past tense, whereas I am very much focused on our present circumstances.
I didn't mean to suggest you were stuck in the past. You're right, Ambassador. Not the most diplomatic choice of words.
Concentrons-nous sur l'avenir.
We're all
Salut.
curious about the future, Ambassador.
Oui, un peu, oui. Bah après, Mass Effect a été très inspiré par... Enfin, c'est beaucoup inspiré de Star Trek, notamment tout ce qui est costume, etc. C'est très Star Trek dans Mass Effect.
Lydia and Hotari. The Lydians are the more advanced species. They made first contact with the Hotari over a century ago. This is Tau, the Hotari moon. It is rich in dilithium, and for decades, the Hotari and the Illydians have shared a mining operation there. The Illydians provide the technological resources, while the Hotari have served as the labor force. The stability of that arrangement was the source of their peace, until recently. The Hotari have suddenly and forcefully seized control of the mining operations and expelled the Illydians from their system. That is the official story, as told by the Hotari when they requested Federation mediation. But the details remain scant. Communications between all parties have been limited by the ionic interference.
Voilà, hein.
How is it the Hotari were able to turn the tables and take the mines against superior forces, especially after decades in this arrangement?
Unclear. The answer to that question may be the key to a new, lasting peace, and one that I hope we can uncover during these negotiations. But it is unlikely the relatively primitive Hotari forces would stand a chance against the Illydian fleet if this escalates to open war. Left unchecked, this conflict will result in more bloodshed, which is what we are here to prevent.
And the dilithium trade hangs in the balance.
Clearly, the Hotari have been exploited in this relationship.
Maybe we can persuade them peace is the more profitable alternative for everyone. They both profited from the mines. And for the Hotari, something is better than nothing. Peace is our objective after all.
Oui, mais ils seront toujours exploités en fait, donc à la fin ça reviendra au même et il y aura sûrement une autre rébellion derrière.
We can call it profitable or mutually beneficial, but at the end of the day, the Hotari are still being exploited for their own resources.
Moustachios, il va encore me faire la gueule.
Merely the absence of war, and as such, this conflict will surely come again.
Neither the Illydians or the Hotari are members of the Federation, so we can't make them do anything.
There is an additional complicating factor I should mention. In the past, the Federation has relied on the Illydians as a source of dilithium.
That certainly changes things.
Federation sources its dilithium from a lot of places.
Yeah, and this is one of them.
Bah ils nous feront pas confiance en fait.
That means the Hotari have no reason to trust us.
I wouldn't go that far, Commander.
Bah.
We are completely neutral in this matter, on neither one side nor the other. Any suggestion otherwise would compromise our position. Given the Federation's involvement in the Ilidian dilithium trade, Captain Solano and I must make every effort to appear neutral in these negotiations.
What worries me is if this whole thing unravels and we're at the mercy of the storm at less than full strength.
We can't let it come to that.
Considering what the ion storm has done to our ship, and the Ambassador's shuttle, we have to assume the Ilidian fleet has had problems with it as well. This recent surge in the energy disturbance temporarily levels the playing field.
Commander Westbrook is correct. The energy anomalies around the Hotari systems have been noted in the past. But they have never been observed on the orders of magnitude we have seen in recent weeks.
Dans la première, c'est de la merde, c'est sûr. Non, ça nous fait gagner du temps.
If it's keeping the two sides talking instead of shooting at each other, that actually helps us negotiate a peace.
And we'll take advantage of that as long as it works in our favor.
And when it doesn't?
All the more reason to learn as much about it as we can while we are here. We do not want to be caught unprepared, should the energy anomaly continue to fluctuate. So I trust we understand our circumstances.
We're operating on a strict timetable here, and we're going to be leaving for the negotiations shortly. Commander Westbrook, I want you to leverage our systems to investigate the anomaly from here while we're gone.
Aye, Captain.
Thank you all.
Dismissed.
Ah, bah là, il y a carrément pas de
I want to
sous-titres
speak to
français.
both of you privately.
Ambassador Spock, I'd like to make a formal introduction. My first officer, Commander Jara Rydek.
Commander, as you are aware, there are limits to what Captain Solano and I can do in our official capacity as representatives of the Federation. But someone in an unofficial capacity, your first officer, for example, would not be bound by those restrictions. Commander Rydek could ingratiate herself to certain parties behind the scenes, where they may be more candid in revealing information that could lead to a resolution.
She certainly goes her own way.
Oh, je peux pas dire quoi qu'il en coûte, ça va me rappeler Macron, mais
It would be unconventional, but I'm not opposed to it.
oh, je vais mettre ce sera un honneur.
I'm honored to be included in the negotiation process.
You're not just included, you are instrumental.
Well, I hope Commander Rydek will
Bon,
have
moi,
more
si
luck finding
Spock
out
y
what really
valide,
happened
c'est que pour moi, c'est
than
le
he will
bon
to
choix dans tous les cas.
The fate of the negotiations, the interests of the Federation, and the prospect for peace may very well depend on it.
Mr. Diaz, I understand you have already discussed the warp drive failure with Ambassador Spock?
I have.
It is imperative that the Ambassador's shuttle be flight ready. I need you both to ascertain the root cause of the system failures he encountered.
I'm surprised, Commander. I thought you would have wanted to work on Ambassador Spock's shuttle yourself.
I respect the Ambassador and his many accomplishments, but I do not derive any satisfaction from interacting with his shuttle as if it were somehow transubstantiated through its association with him. Especially when I have the entirety of this starship to concern myself with. I am not the chief engineer of this shuttlecraft.
Qu'est-ce qui vous plaît?
Commander Chovak, is there anything you do enjoy?
I take pleasure in the satisfaction of a job well done. I suggest you try it sometime. Make note of any abnormalities in your report. Carry on.
Was that a joke?
No.
Hello, targeted underscore user underscore 1. Mais pourquoi lui il me déteste en fait? Le lieutenant-commandeur Chovak n'a pas apprécié l'attitude effrontée de Carter quand on lui a demandé de travailler sur la navette de l'ambassadeur Spock. Mais Mais j'étais pas effronté, Ok.
Yeah.
C'est pas grave.
Even Chovok has to look at that face and know you've earned some real respect. And I have to admit that I owe you one.
Putain, j'avoue, je me suis fait cramer la
You
gueule
were
quand même.
right to make me go first. I don't know what I was thinking. You did the smart thing.
Tu ne me dois rien.
You've pulled me out of trouble how many times? Call it even.
Okay. At the very least, maybe I can track down that bottle of Saurian brandy you're still on the hook for. But first, we have work to do.
Ready to go?
All set. Let's run the diagnostic.
Je peux toucher les autres trucs? Ah, non. Pas. Ah. Ah. Ah, Très bien. Ah, bordel.
So... I know about your talk with Miranda.
You do?
She sent me a Priority 1 dispatch right after your conversation. I'm happy for you. Both of you.
Thanks.
But I'm only going to tell you this once. Don't screw this up. Because I would be very unhappy if you tried this out and then, I don't know, 6 weeks
Putain,
or
le
6
Don't
days
Screw This
later, I
Up
have to start
qui a été
splitting
traduit
holidays
n'importe
between
comment,
the two of
c'était
you.
quelque chose. Hein.
All because things went south and you're not on speaking terms.
Ayez une certaine foi.
That just isn't gonna work for me.
Es-tu vexé?
And I know you'll respect that.
Are you upset?
Not on your life, Diaz. But you need to be careful. I like my friends and I like our group. I don't want to lose that.
Putain, j'ai l'impression que des fois ça passe
Is
du
that
vouvoiement
thing
au tutoiement dans les sous-titres.
It's wrapping up. Let's see. The relays along the primary EPS are blown. The backup relays are all intact.
An EPS overload from the warp drive could cause that. But how did the shuttle end up dead in the water?
Huh. Well, maybe the ship's data recorder can tell us something.
Je sais pas, ça me fait vraiment beaucoup rire, hein, ces deux doigts là qui se baladent là.
Here.
They were only about 8 minutes from their plotted warp point. No faults, just those warnings. What are they?
There was a complete warp cascade failure.
Wow. They're lucky the shuttle didn't turn inside out.
Makes me think the computer panicked on the warp field equation. The warp field became inverted suddenly.
I've seen this happen when the center warp coil cracks.
A cracked warp coil throws a fault code.
Still, we should take a look.
Subspace variance out of tolerance. What does that mean?
It means the main navigation array lost sight of space somehow.
Will the array going offline cause that?
Yes, but it should have also thrown a fault code. Any one of these failures should have thrown a fault.
If it was caused by a system failure.
None of this caused the relays to blow. Roll forward to when that happened.
Yes, ma'am.
So here, they take a moment to get their bearings and they attempt to re-engage the warp drive.
There. That's the relays blowing.
And look, there's another warp system alert.
They're all the same. Subspace variance out of tolerance, or warp inversions. Finally, there's a complete warp cascade failure.
Then it's one of two things. Either a warp coil is cracked, or the navigation array is offline.
That makes sense.
Divide and conquer. You want to check the warp coils or the navigation array? I'll check the other. Let's not overcomplicate this. One of these systems is likely broken.
Je vois le système de navigation.
I'll check the navigation array.
Mais elle a vraiment une tête de Sims par contre, notre camarade là. Votre tricorder peut enregistrer et analyser des données. Le regarder révélera l'invisible. Utilisez X pour vous équiper ou rengainer. Oui, ok, d'accord. Ok, right trigger pour scanner les objets qui brillent. Vous devez être à proximité de certains objets pour les scanner. Regardez bien. Regardez le cadre de l'écran pour voir si vous êtes trop loin. Ah oui, d'accord, c'est que ça le met comme ça. Okay. Ah oui, donc faut vraiment le choix. Certains objets que vous scannerez activeront un scan en profondeur. Lors d'un scan en profondeur, utilisez left button et right button pour changer de mode de scan et chercher des objets brillants. Les indicateurs de mode du tricorder clignoteront si un objet à scanner dans ce mode se trouve à proximité. Lorsque vous avez scanné tous les objets, le cadre change de couleur. Maintenez left trigger pour analyser les données et terminer la numérisation. D'accord. Ah oui, d'accord. Les capteurs sous-spatiaux de la navette sont sensibles aux interférences rétro-diffusées par les autres systèmes internes. Des fils permettent d'atténuer ce type de rayonnement pour que les capteurs continuent à fournir des données non parasitées. D'accord. Le système de capteurs sous-spatiaux surveille les transitions de gradient entre l'espace normal et le subespace, pardon. Lorsque le vaisseau voyage en distorsion, aucun dégât physique détecté, oui. Bah donc là, ouais, c'est bon, j'ai... Ok.
Navigation array checks out, so it must be a coil.
Except it's not. Checked and double-checked.
Well, the readings don't lie.
Here comes the security detail for the way team.
Non mais c'est...
Hey.
I'm not here.
Non mais c'est vrai que quand je vois sa coupe de cheveux, je regrette quand même d'avoir dit que je voulais une romance avec elle.
I don't want to interrupt some important work. I was just hoping to see you before I go. The captain and the others will be here any minute now. Should be an interesting ride down to the surface.
Faisons semblant de travailler. J'ai toujours du temps pour toi.
Come on, I'm never too busy to make time for you.
That's not true.
No. But I am glad you came by.
No, that's more accurate.
Putain, mais il y a des plans de caméra, j'ai l'impression qu'il regarde pas le personnage, c'est très étrange.
Aren't these those button pushers you're always hanging out with?
And you're the phaser jockeys we always beat in Parisi squares, right?
All aboard for Hotari.
That another one of the captain's railroad things?
Gotta be. I just usually zone out by the time he gets to the whole, steam engines were the warp drives of their day part. Catch y'all later.
You don't want to miss your train.
I do have to go. Not gonna lie, I'd rather not leave right now.
Allez, hein, je vais l'embrasser, hein, let's go. Hein. Malgré sa coupe de cheveux, on s'est lancé dans le projet. Ah, c'est pas, enfin, c'est ouais. C'est pas comme ça. C'est pas comme ça qu'on fait, mais c'est pas grave.
Save some of that for when I get back.
You got a deal.
Ils ont littéralement juste collé leur bouche fermée entre eux.
Be seeing you.
Te voir. Mais pourquoi? Je comprends vraiment pas comment les sous-titres parfois ils arrivent à traduire des trucs qui sont du bullshit scientifique sans problème et à d'autres moments c'est n'importe quoi. Miranda ne m'a pas oublié d'aussitôt le baiser échangé avec Carter lorsqu'ils se sont dit au revoir dans la baie d'amarrage. Putain, c'est beau, putain.
Etzelarda Diaz. If you could float back down to reality, we still have a ways to go. All right, where were we?
So, the warp coils in the navigation array are fine, but the nav computer doesn't seem to think so.
I'm out of ideas short of field stripping the shuttle from bow to stern.
You wanna take this out of the shuttle and throw it on the bench?
Oh, real hands-on maintenance. I like it. Okay, the nav computer is patched into the ship.
The ship's computer can double-check our work. If the shuttle's nav computer is putting out false data, we'll know it.
Let's run through the shuttle's logs again.
Running now. Same. Warp field inversion and a cascade failure. However, the Resolute computer doesn't show the same subspace variance.
We're in the same conditions that the shuttle was in when it failed. Why wouldn't the ship's computer get a matching result?
What if the subspace variance was a momentary occurrence?
That's a possibility, and it would explain why the simulation under our current sensor readings failed to reproduce the issue.
But a subspace anomaly strong enough to cause a warp field collapse would leave graviton ripples for days.
Let's run with the momentary subspace variance theory for now. Roll forward to the shuttle's attempt to re-engage the warp drive. We need the conditions of space around the shuttle at the moment of warp failure.
Resuming simulation.
Error in warp field calculation. Cochrane formula variables are out of range.
That right there. Take the shuttle sensor data from that moment.
Computer, why did the warp field calculation fail?
Warp field pressure returned non-orthogonal. Results are undefined.
That doesn't help.
Wait, what if we use a different ship?
Put the Resolute into the simulation instead of the shuttle.
Yeah, it should warp just fine. Unless... Computer, run the simulation with the Resolute.
Resolute simulated.
Computer, give me manual control on the warp power.
Static field intensity, warp 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Warp pressure is destabilizing. Error in warp field calculation. The warp drive has experienced a system-wide cascade failure. Warp field collapsed. Subspace variance is out of tolerance. Cochrane formula results are undefined.
Bingo.
What-o?
The same moment when the shuttle failed to warp, so did the ship. Whatever happened to the shuttle just happened to us. The Resolute will not sustain warp.
We can't leave Hotari space.
Ambassador Spock, Captain Solano, welcome to Hotari. We are honored you've come. My name is Tyler Saltaris, Minister of Diplomatic Affairs.
Très
The
joli
honor is
bonnet.
ours, and this is Commander Jara Rydek, first officer aboard the USS Resolute. You'll find she has a keen mind and unique insight into the dynamics
Putain,
between
nous
the
avons voyagé
Hotari
loin,
and
ça
the
fait vraiment
Illyrians.
le sac à merde. Ouais, c'était long. Hein. C'est un plaisir de vous rencontrer. Allez.
It's very nice to meet you.
Likewise, I hope...
These must be the representatives of the mighty Federation. The reigning authority in the galaxy. Or so we've been led to believe. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen. But, either way, we're grateful you've made the time to come to our little corner of the universe.
And you are?
This is Galvin, And this is Citron, the heroes of the revolt in the mines.
Vous avez des cailloux sur la tête, je sais pas si vous êtes au courant. Oula.
Let's hope this is the last time we ever have to come here.
If you'll excuse me.
Celui qui fait la voix là, c'est Elias Toufexis. Ce très cher Adam Jensen.
Did you hear the arrogance from that guy? I don't know what we're walking into here. That guy was something.
Ah, ne le sous-estimez pas.
Something about his tone tells me this won't be easy.
That was my sense as well.
I doubt he speaks for all of Hotari, so I would urge patience until we speak with their queen.
Ma queen. Voilà. Allez, montrez la différence.
Ambassador Spock, welcome to Hotari Prime.
The honor is mine, Your Majesty.
That the Federation would send one of their most respected representatives is not only an honor to the Hotari people and their queen, but a recognition of our stature and importance.
Let's get on with it, shall we? With all due respect to the Federation and their ambassador, they have no authority here. We are not members of their alliance. We are not subject to their rule, nor yours. We demand the immediate return of all mining operations to Elydian control, as it has been for centuries and will be for centuries more. That has always been our understanding.
That understanding has changed.
Then you invite war!
And if you cannot remain silent, you will be silenced. But his point is well taken. What is the Federation's interest in this matter?
Ah nous on est juste venu pour le spectacle. Hein.
Have us trade one oppressor for another?
The Federation remains neutral. Our only interest is the peaceful resolution of this conflict. We are here at your request, Your Majesty.
For now.
Saying this wouldn't be easy was an understatement. I thought they wanted us here.
D'accord, yes.
Was there something you wanted to say, Captain?
Oh, no. My apologies.
And what about the Kobliad?
She's not
She
part
can
of...
speak for herself, can't she?
Allez.
Then let her.
Je veux le trône de fer.
Now then, what is your name?
Commander Jara Rydek, Your Majesty.
Being a Kobliad, you would know better than anyone. Your people suffered brutal treatment at the hands of the Cardassians. Their injustice towards the Kobliad is as unimaginable as it is unforgivable. Not unlike how we have been treated by the Elydians.
As much as they'd have you believe they are the victims here, remember it was the Hotari who attacked us. Hundreds of innocent Elydians were slaughtered without mercy in those mines.
The blood is on their hands, not ours.
Quiet!
Vos sourcils me terrifient. Voilà, c'est tout ce que je dirais. J'ai peur de vos sourcils.
You finally had the chance to right that wrong. to get out from under their control. Would you take it? Or would you negotiate a peace?
Oh putain. Je ne peux pas spéculer
I
là-dessus.
can't speculate on something that never happened, Your Majesty. Sadly, that opportunity never came for the Kobliad.
No, it did not. But we'd be wise to learn from their example before we too find ourselves facing extinction. The Federation is the most powerful, most advanced alliance in the galaxy. It's widely known we have an abundance of dilithium in our mines. And it's in your interest to secure a steady supply.
Your Majesty, if I may.
Ambassador Spock would have us believe you're here as a neutral party in the interest of peace. So why are you really here? I want the truth, not your Federation rhetoric.
Ouais, bah oui, si je vais dire la vérité. Hein.
It's possible the Federation has an interest in both peace and securing a steady source of dilithium. One does not preclude or prevent the other.
N'enfonce pas les sourcils,
That's just
Spock.
my personal opinion.
Given the Federation has done business with the Elidians for decades, I would agree. It's entirely possible, if not highly likely.
What they haven't said, but cannot deny, is that...
Oh non, non, mais comment ça? Ah, bah c'est bon, là.
The dilithium trade would not and will no longer exist without a Lydian involvement. We created it for the benefit of everyone, especially the Hotari. We've given them warp technology. We've let them share in the profits. We've made their lives infinitely better than before dilithium was discovered. All of that goes away if the Federation turns a blind eye to their treachery.
That is enough of your lies! The Hotari are quite capable of running the mines. We've done so for centuries.
Alors que les Otari, bon, en vrai, c'est pas censé être dans des mines.
Who deserves control of the dilithium trade and the mines on town?
Aïe.
Who should the Federation recognize? The Hotari or the Elidians? Can only be one or the other.
Bah non, mais en vrai les Otari, parce que moi je trouve ça super mignon, donc les Otari, hein, c'est parti.
If I have to choose only one, then it would have to be the Hotari.
Well said. How could the just and wise Federation make any other choice?
This is an outrage. The Federation has lost all credibility.
The mines are ours. Lydia will not be deterred. We will take back our mines by any means necessary.
Then you will see more blood spilled.
I am more than willing to address your concerns, Your Majesty. Yours as well, Representative. But I suggest we could have a more productive conversation with a smaller group. Perhaps only the most essential representatives.
I suppose there is some sense to that.
Putain, ce qui est sûr, c'est que maintenant tout le monde va me chier dessus et dire que c'est de ma faute, quoi.
I hope we meet again, Jara Rydek.
Oh putain. Commandeur moustache là, enfin capitaine moustache, il me déteste.
Spock and I will cover everything on the diplomatic front. You make nice with the locals and see if you can get some answers. We need to find out why the Hotari are so willing to risk war. What happened in those mines?
Ah non, ça va. Ah, je m'attendais à ce qu'il me crache dans la bouche, mais non. Eh ben. Et en même temps, moi, je suis pas diplomate. Hein.
The captain and ambassador have it handled. I've got my own mission.
Je vais apprécier l'eau.
Soothing.
Putain, bon. On voit rien.
Such rough terrain. No wonder the Hotari are so tough.
Bah, puis après, les Otaries sont littéralement faits à moitié en pierre, on dirait. Donc, bon, c'est vrai que...
Commander, I'm glad you've chosen to side with the Hotari. I knew the Federation would see through the Elidians' baseless claims and protect the interests of my people.
The Hotari have suffered enough at the hands of the Elidians.
I couldn't agree more.
I assume you were there the day the mines were seized from the Elidians.
Not seized. Reclaimed. And restored to their rightful owners. Yes, I was there. We had to be decisive. Before the Elidians could even realize their worst nightmares upon them.
Did you have help from someone else?
Hotari stands alone against the Elidian forces. We don't need help from anyone. They respect one thing above all else, and that is force. The greater the force, the more certain the outcome. Any talk of making peace is just that, and worth little without the strength to secure it. Which makes me wonder about your ship, the Resolute. Undoubtedly the Federation's finest warship. Ready to contend with anything the Elidians might have in store. Or is that not true? Maybe I've misjudged it.
C'est un vaisseau scientifique.
It wasn't designed as a warship. More for scientific research and exploration.
But the Federation must have ships designed for war.
Technically, they're Starfleet ships representing the Federation. But yes.
I see.
Sidron.
A pleasure meeting you, Commander. I'm sure we'll cross paths again.
Hey.
Commander Rydek, I'm encouraged to see the Federation supporting my people. I'm afraid of what might happen without your help.
Merci, ambassadeur Spock. Ça fait plaisir à entendre. Putain, mais en fait,
I'm glad to hear it. I just hope you're not the only one who feels that way.
I apologize for that. These are unusual times, to say the least. Much is changing. I saw you speaking with Sidron, our national hero. I'm curious, what did he say?
He seems to be of the opinion that negotiating for peace is a waste of time.
Because force is the only blunt instrument he understands. He's a miner, not a diplomat. For the first time in our history, the Hotari have the upper hand. We see ourselves as strong instead of downtrodden. New voices have risen up. Old voices shouted down. Galvin and Sidron have become national heroes. Now, they have the Queen's ear. Better or worse, depending on your perspective.
Y a pas de confiance.
I get the sense you don't exactly trust them.
I don't trust their instincts, which are leading us to war. My fear has been that the Elidians will launch an attack and crush us. You've seen their starship, no doubt. They could have retaken the mines whenever they wanted to, but it never happened. And as strange as this may sound, I'd almost say they're afraid. I just don't know what they're afraid of. It's still the same bluster and bravado you would expect from them. But it has no teeth. Like they're afraid of what might happen.
La tempête, peut-être, mais non, je pense pas que ce soit la Fédération.
Do you think it has something to do with the ion storm? Right now, it's stronger than ever, isn't it?
It's entirely possible. I'm not a scientist, but I do know the storm has knocked out all kinds of systems. So maybe the Illydians weren't willing to risk their ships, given all the interference. Since the day of the revolt, Galvin has seized control of the mines and restricted all access. No one's allowed without his personal
Ouais, il y a un truc
authorization.
bizarre dans les mines à mon avis. Hein.
And they've taken over a section of the palace with just as much secrecy and security. I'm told it could be something they brought back from the mines. I've made inquiries, but everyone pretends it doesn't exist. I strongly suspect they're hiding something.
Why would they do that?
Ils ne cachent pas que des mineurs dans la mine. Ils cachent sûrement aussi des youtubeurs.
Whatever they're hiding, it can't be good.
C'est généralement là qu'on les trouve, hein. Pas loin des mineurs.
I'd better see what's happening.
Do you think you can find out what they're hiding? I need to see proof of something before I can make my case to the Federation.
I can try, but even if I found it, I might not know what to make of it.
Take this. You can use it to capture whatever you find, and then send it to me.
Thank you. I will let you know what I find. And I look forward to our meeting again.
Sorry, I couldn't help but notice you were speaking with the Hotari this whole time. I figured in the interest of fairness, I should offer another perspective.
Mais je comptais bien vous parler, hein.
I'm probably not telling you anything you don't already know, but these negotiations rely on the Federation's neutrality, as does any hope you might have for a supply of dilithium in the future. So, why you would choose to side with the Hotari escapes me. Without Illydian involvement, there is no dilithium trade. But clearly, you weren't aware.
Non, moi je m'en fous du dilithium, c'est pas mon souci. Enfin, moi personnellement, je m'en fous.
Dilithium is not one of them. I could care less about securing a supply, now or in the future.
I'd be curious to know if the rest of the Federation shares your indifference. Major Salit Arminta, Special Attaché, Illydian Armed Forces. Pleasure to meet you, Commander. I have my issues with the Hotari, but I have to give them some credit. They know how to seize an opportunity. Inciting an uprising the same day as a massive, once-in-a-lifetime ion storm.
Our assumption was that this storm was just an anomaly.
Yes, a very convenient anomaly. At least that was what we were told. Of course, I wasn't there. But who am I to say otherwise?
Vous avez l'air
You
sceptique.
sound skeptical.
Well, the official story is that it was the storm that enabled the revolt. How else do a bunch of unarmed, unorganized miners seize control of an entire moon, much less thousands of mines? But I've talked to people who were there. They tell a different story. They say they're lucky to have escaped with their lives. That it was more than just the storm. That somehow the miners were able to harness the energy from the storm. I know it sounds crazy. I'm not even sure I believe it myself. But that's what they said.
Ouais.
You just answered your own question. How do a group of miners do something that in theory can't be done? That's how. Harnessing the storm.
But even if it's true, how does that even happen?
You tell me.
If you'll excuse me, Commander Rydek.
Donc, concrètement, les Michel, ils ont quelque chose qui aura permis de maîtriser la tempête ionique. Et c'est grâce à ça qu'ils ont dégagé les Alidiens, là.
Well, that was a disaster.
What happened?
The Hotari refused to concede anything, so the Elydians stormed out.
Bon, ça va?
The Hotari did not invite us here as peacekeepers. I hope your efforts were more fruitful than ours.
Gravitational harmonics failing to resolve. Warp bubble stability degrading. Increase output to maximum.
Increasing warp output to maximum.
Des fois, je comprends pas pourquoi il y a une QTE juste pour un truc en fait. Bon.
It is evident that presently the Resolute cannot achieve warp propulsion.
Since our diagnostics rule out any problems with our warp systems or anything about the ship, the problem appears to be the fabric of space itself.
Space itself? You're saying something about this region of space prevents warp travel?
Prevents it, or can't sustain it.
However improbable, that appears to be the case.
Ça pourrait être dû à la tempête.
Otherwise, it'll be an extended stay in the Hotari system.
The storm didn't stop us from leaving space dock and traveling here. But could it still be causing this interference with warp travel?
We must follow sound investigatory principles. Do not let an assumed conclusion drive your analysis.
Sometimes we need a little inspired thinking, Mr. Chovak. Captain Solano is on his way back from the negotiations, and I want to have some answers for him when he gets here.
Indeed. Given the facts at hand, we may be able to deploy subspace probes around the ship to construct a clearer picture of the phenomenon.
Around the ship. I'll prep a shuttle.
I'm setting up a waypoint at a distance roughly corresponding to the edge of our warp field. When we get there, I'll deploy the first probe.
Oh putain, on va piloter. Pilotez la navette jusqu'à votre objectif pour terminer la mission. Avancez, reculez, tournez. La tempête perturbera la navigation de votre navette. Concentrez-vous pour maintenir le cap. La tempête ionique placera de nombreux dangers sur votre chemin. Les éclairs verts endommageront votre navette. Si vous subissez 3 fois des dégâts, la mission... Ah putain, on peut... D'accord, on peut perdre. Je ne suis pas habitué dans ce type de jeu à perdre, mais ok. Vous pouvez passer entre les anneaux créés par la tempête en pilotant prudemment. Suivez le chemin éclairé pour rejoindre le point de passage suivant. L'ordinateur de navigation affiche des informations concernant la zone qui vous entoure. L'un indique un danger de tempête et l'autre ça indique les astéroïdes. D'accord. Ok. Attends.
Commander Westbrook, the Resolute systems are calibrated to receive the probe's readings. We are standing by to reproduce the warp field collapse after the first probe is deployed.
Thank you, Mr. Chovak. We'll be in position shortly.
Mitraillage? Non mais je crois que c'est encore une... Mais non, mais d'accord, impulsion, inversion, oui ok, ça
Now is
c'est
not the
ça.
time to indulge in the human penchant for joyriding.
Chovak probably isn't such a fun guy to work for, huh?
Bon, Choc est pas mauvais.
Lieutenant Commander Chovak's not so bad. You know.
C'est juste qu'il me
once you
déteste.
get used to him. And I've learned a lot working under him.
I have a feeling I'm going to have to work harder to be a political animal like you. With this new first officer coming aboard.
Bon, c'est pas Star Citizen ni Elite Dangerous, hein, le pilotage de vaisseau là.
This is far enough. Transporting the first probe into position. Westbrook here. The first probe is deployed.
Understood. We are reading it. We are about to replay the simulation.
Problem? I just can't get a handle on her. Commander Rydek. She rejected my plan to use a deflector pulse against the storm surge. But on the other, she did listen to my advice and use the whole polarity trick to get you through that excursion alive. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the new XO. I'm sure she's a fine officer, even if we don't see eye to eye. But she didn't go through what the rest of us did. You know that. And it's hard to figure out why she'd be the one Solano chose instead of...
Je vais me back avec le second personnage du coup. Laissez-moi une
I've heard
chance.
some good things. You should at least give her a chance.
I'll take that under advisement.
Test is running. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1, mark.
Je sais bien, le mec. Ah, mais il y a une fois, m'a écouté, il y a une deuxième fois, m'a pas écouté. Ben oui, mais en fait, ça dépend de la situation, enfoiré.
All right, that is definitely a problem with the fabric of space. We need to get another probe out there. With 2 points of data, the Resolute and the probe, we've managed to get an interference pattern. I'm setting a waypoint to a particularly strong area of interference. We'll deploy the second probe there.
Ah, putain, c'est parti. Elite Dangerous.
Listen, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice I wish someone had given me. Make sure you're never just one thing. And don't get so focused on what's in front of your face that you lose sight of the big picture. Before Rydek showed up, the captain pulled me into his ready room and told me he didn't think I had the people skills to be first officer. What a load of crap. I mean, if he'd said that about Chovak, sure.
Well, if you're asking, I think you're a people person. After all, here we are. Me, an enlisted officer. You, one of the senior staff. Talking like old buddies.
I should send Solano to talk to you.
Bring him on.
I'm sure you can handle him. You've got potential. You're a capable engineer. You're good in the field. Keep up the good work. And who knows? A solid jack of all departments like you could be Commander-in-Chief of Starfleet one day. Hell, Admiral Jellicoe started as a shuttle pilot. And there are places to go in the enlisted ranks, too.
I don't know. I'm pretty happy where I am.
You must be a glutton for punishment. Lieutenant Commander Chovak has been known to take decades to warm up to people.
Il a chicané des points, c'est bon, ça, c'est bien ça. Ouais, je réinstalle les Dangerous et que j'en fasse un peu en live. Genre les lives nocturnes. Des lives nocturnes là où je vais visiter des endroits perdus.
Deploying the probe. Westbrook to Commander Chovak. We're ready for another sampling of data.
Very good. Running the simulation again. Warp field collapse in 3, 2, 1, mark.
There it is again.
I saw it. It seems to be directional.
Well, what about the scans? Anything?
Here's the readings in relation to our local space. We've got the Resolute, Otari Prime, and the probes.
All this interference is overloading the sensor buffers. We're gonna have to triangulate the sensors manually.
Oh putain.
We got something.
These markers indicate peaks in the gravimetric interference patterns.
Let's see if I can find some more. Hold up. This is coming from the moon.
A beam that blocks warp travel.
Aimed right at us.
Someone is doing this intentionally. I don't know how they're doing it. This is like nothing I've ever seen.
Non, on va pas partir en mode
Why would they be
belliqueux.
doing this? We came here to help these people. And now we're getting hit by some warp-killing weapon?
Now, look here. It's current readings of the ion storm.
These concentrations, they line up with the interference pattern. The storm and this beam, they're coming from the same place.
Carter, whatever petty local conflict brought us here, it's just a small part of something much bigger. Presently, we don't have an explanation for how they're doing this. One thing is clear. This is no fluke.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. I want a full briefing when I'm back on board. Solano out. A targeted weapon that inhibits warp travel. Coming from the moon Tau.
That would explain the difficulties my shuttle encountered. More importantly, the tenor of the Hotari during the negotiations.
And here I thought the Elydians would be the problem. Coming to peace talks in a warship. This wasn't supposed to be so complicated.
Les Alydiens ont peur.
For all their posturing, every indication is that the Elydians are afraid of the Hotari. They didn't bring their warship as a threat. They brought it because they're scared.
From everything we witnessed, I would say that is highly likely.
But what are they afraid of?
Tylus, the Hotari representative, said she thought they found something in the mines. Galvin and Sidron brought it back to the palace, but they're keeping it under tight security. She's going to investigate it. I gave her my tricorder. I expect she'll contact us soon.
You found an ally.
Why would Tylus help us? Go behind her people's back? It's a fair question, considering.
Oh... Elle me fait confiance.
Out of all of them, she's the one who seemed to genuinely appreciate that the Federation was involved. She believes in us, and I think we can believe in her.
That may be true.
She's certainly more likely to help than the other Hotari we've met.
That raises another question. Specifically, what do the other Hotari have to gain in bringing us here, only to make this hostile maneuver against us? There must be some motivation.
Unless they changed their minds between when they asked and when we got here.
Pour en apprendre plus sur nous.
Sidron was very curious when we spoke outside the Queen's chamber. He wanted to know all about us, our ship, the Federation. He wasn't giving any answers. He was looking for them.
Well, I'm sure you didn't tell him too much. I don't think the Elydians know what's really down on that moon either.
Major Armintas said the revolt defied explanation. That the Hotari miners somehow harnessed the energy of the storm.
Harness the energy of the storm?
Doing that is beyond even our capabilities.
So is a weapon that disrupts warp travel.
Ils ont sûrement un Metal Gear.
There have been civilizations and entities, both past and present, far more technologically advanced than the Federation.
The Elydians and Hotari don't fall into that category.
But that is all the more reason to investigate further.
Commander Rydek, sorry to interrupt. We've received an urgent call from Hotari. The Queen's advisor, Tylus, has asked to speak with you.
Put her through.
Galvin and Sidron are still with the Queen. I've enlisted help to gain access to the room they have under guard. I don't have much time.
I'm not supposed to leave my post.
It's only for a moment. I so appreciate your help.
Oh, t'es vraiment très discrète là.
I found something. I'm sending you a scan.
Got it. Tylus, if we needed to gain access to the mines on Tau, is that something you could help us with?
I suppose it wouldn't be easy, but I have to go.
J'aime beaucoup le fait qu'elle se filme en mode tu as reçu les photos sur le Facebook, genre vraiment la grand-mère de Facebook quoi.
Sorry, Captain. We've lost all contact.
We can only hope she escaped without harm.
It was hard to tell.
I'm the one who got her into this. If something happens to her, it's my fault.
She's one of the Queen's closest advisors. I'm sure she'll be fine. Assuming the Queen isn't part of this. Let's see the scan of whatever the hell that was.
J'adore le style des
Tyler
tricorders.
suspects this came from the mines on
Ils sont vraiment
tap.
trop stylés.
It appears to be of ancient origin, but the markings are unfamiliar.
We can run a full analysis when we get back to the Resolute. But if this came from the mines, then it might be the key to how they got the upper hand against the Elydians.
Then we have to go into the mines.
The Federation would not allow that. We were, after all, sent here to be a neutral party in a peace negotiation. However, we could demonstrate that the Hotari have acted in bad faith, which would enable us to investigate the mines on Tau with full justification. But of course, we would need conclusive proof before taking action. Otherwise, it could put us in a difficult position.
Whatever this artifact is may be proof enough. At least to satisfy the Federation.
Especially if we can show the Hotari are controlling the warp disruption. And targeting the Resolute.
We may have a better understanding once we analyze the device. But a mission to the mines, covert or otherwise, is not out of the question. And I will handle the Federation.
As I was telling Carter, I want all the data I can get on this warp problem. And the negotiating team's shuttle has been recording data all the way back from Hotari. Even better than our probes. So pull the sensor and engine ISOs from the Melville when it sets down.
Will do.
I'll join you and Chovak down in engineering to run another analysis after the briefing.
I didn't like this warp problem when we thought it was some astronomical anomaly. And I like it a hell of a lot less now that we know someone is doing it to us. How does it work? What do we even do about it?
What do you say we pull these chips and find out?
Took some damage on the way. That ionic interference scored the hull plating. Might be some micro welds. Let's try pulling together.
All right.
Oh putain, attention, petite QTE là de tirage.
One. It won't budge. Gotta be the storm damage. We need to... Welcome back. Any excitement down on the surface?
Excitement? No. Nothing like that.
Hey, can you hand me the EJ7 interlock? From the toolbox.
I don't know what that is.
Not much use for one on a security detail, huh? Carter?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay, I'll apply pressure while you decouple the panel.
Je suis... Voilà.
Here, I'll help.
Ah bah donc, il sait faire des trucs quand même.
We've got this.
Open up and say ah.
Thanks for the hand. We have to get these isolinear chips down to engineering.
No problem. You really know everything about these ships, don't you? The tools, the systems. Like a walking Starfleet technical manual.
Well, I wouldn't say everything, but I know my stuff.
I can see that.
Ah, oula, attends. Ça lui a pas plu? Miranda a remarqué que la confiance habituelle au Carter commençait à être nuancée par une certaine humilité depuis son retour d'Otari.
Come on,
C'est pas
start
bien?
pulling chips.
Oh, moi j'aurais dit que c'était... Enfin c'est bien aussi l'humilité de temps en temps, c'est pas non plus... Oh mon dieu. Et comment ça? Oh. Ah c'était...
Some kind of crystal formation?
Oula, oula. Eh.
Whoa. This substance is a quantized spin crystallization of hydrogen, carbon, and lithium. It's emitting tetrametric pulses at an interval of 3.8422 seconds.
Quantized crystallization isn't natural. I mean, it's only theoretical as a means to engineer matter on a subatomic level. What's it doing in there?
Ah c'est marrant, c'est marqué uranium. À mon avis ça va lui faire un truc.
Wait. Regulation 364 subsection 9.
What?
Regulation 364 subsection 9 orders that in the case of an unknown foreign substance infiltrating a sealed system, it will be placed in secure confinement before further examination. Retrieve a containment module.
Enfin, remarque, elle a raison, le mec, on sait pas ce que c'est, il va pour prendre à main nue là.
No. Before anything else, this is a security issue. You don't even know what this is.
Which is why we need to study it.
Once it's contained.
Well, if it's not natural, then someone might have put it there. It could be a tracking device. Some kind of sabotage. Or even a bomb.
Which is why we need to get it to the containment lab.
Come on.
I can't make an exception. Not even for you.
Non, elle a raison là pour le coup.
I'm still going to report these crystals to Commander Westbrook when we send the shuttle data.
And I will inform my superiors. I'm taking this just as seriously as you are. But I overheard talk about the warp disruption on the shuttle. Now these crystals? Maybe this situation is more than we can handle with just a science vessel. We could trigger a distress call, get Starfleet to send more ships. Or I could send a message to my old CO on the Adirondack. Get some combat-tested vessels. We shouldn't do this alone.
We're at the edge of the quadrant. Help isn't just gonna pop over like we're in Sector 001.
Wouldn't hurt to try.
You talk like you've never had your backs up against a wall before. This is Starfleet. We solve our own problems.
Elle a l'air chelou là, ma copine.
Okay, stand back. Get this to the containment lab. We'll get it set up for you. I'll let you know when it's safely confined.
Oh, we'll be there.
Je sens la
Last thing
baisse.
you want is to study this down in main engineering and have it explode next to the warp core.
Je sens que... Il y a peut-être une petite baise. Ah.
Almost forgot.
Can't have that.
For a second, I thought she'd gone cold on you. Like she might have changed her mind. But I guess this whole situation has her spooked. Maybe she knows more than us? Or it's because this is all happening so fast?
Bah,
She usually doesn't scare easy.
Oui, mais après, c'est son taf, hein.
Of course she's taking it seriously, but that's her job. If she's on duty, she's gotta be on the lookout for danger.
Yeah, but talking about sending a distress call on her own? That's going too far. She was probably just thinking out loud. I'm sure she'll come to her senses. This mission has enough complications stacking up.
Now, we'll get through it.
Ah ouais, il y a de la magouille avec la
You,
fédération là.
me, And Miranda too.
En mode the crew is
Commander
expendable, quoi,
Rydek
comme
was
dans
able to
Alien.
work behind the scenes during the negotiations and made contact with a representative from the Hotari delegation named Tylus. She mentioned an unusual artifact of unknown origin being held under tight security within the Hotari palace, which she believes came from the mines on Tau. Now, this artifact might have a connection to the revolt, to the storm, and to the warp disruption we now know has been targeted at the Resolute. Commander Rydek, if you want to take it from here.
Of course. Tylus managed to infiltrate the heavily guarded location within the palace and sent us these scans using my tricorder. It appears to be some sort of control panel, possibly connected to the warp disruption weapon originating on Tau. Of particular interest is this symbol, which we couldn't identify the origin of.
The Federation database has records from a vast number of civilizations. If anyone from Starfleet has come across this before, the system should recognize it.
Cross-referencing with Federation records.
Displaying symbols from Federation database with a 90% probability of match or higher. Select a symbol to further analyze.
Trouver un symbole correspondant à la... Ouais. Ah oui, d'accord, ok. Ah. Moi je dirais ça. J'ai trouvé du premier coup. Ah, allô?
99.2% match.
Got it.
Je crois que ça a bugué. Tikan Empire.
So, what are we looking at?
The design and composition indicate this is a glyph associated with the ancient Tikan Empire. Their civilization collapsed over 600,000 years ago, but once spanned millions of systems with a population numbering in the trillions.
Fascinating. The Tikan were once the most advanced, most powerful civilization in the galaxy.
Is it possible the Hotari found Tikan technology?
I wonder if they even know what they have.
Our knowledge of the Tikan is limited. I have only encountered passing references to them.
Actually, I've heard of the Tikan.
You have?
Quite impressive, Commander.
Ah ouais, j'ai vu l'épisode de Star Trek.
Summarize the Enterprise D's discovery of a Tikan outpost.
On stardate 41386.4, the USS Enterprise D, under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, discovered a Tikan outpost in the Delphi Ardu system. According to the mission summary, an unbreakable energy-draining field was deployed against the Enterprise and a Ferengi ship. The Enterprise was only able to escape after negotiating their release with an entity known as Portal 6-3, Guardian of the Tikan Empire.
Unbreakable energy draining field. It starts to make sense.
What else is there?
There's a lot here. Let's take it piece by piece.
Select the aspect you wish to learn more about.
Someone from the Tikan Empire is actually still around.
Or at least was, 16 years ago.
Computer, what other information do you have on Portal 6-3, Guardian of the Tikan Empire?
The entity known as Portal 6-3 is of an unknown nature. A biped humanoid, he was unaware that the Tikan Empire no longer existed at the time of the encounter. He was able to control the crystal-based technology of the Tikan outpost through apparent telepathic means. It was by his choice that the Enterprise was released from the energy-draining field, after Commander William T. Riker of the Away Team argued on behalf of both Starfleet and the Ferengi.
Telepathic control of their technology.
As I have said, they were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy.
What sort of planet is Delphi Ardu 4?
Delphi Ardu 4 is an M-class planet, a barren rocky world with little to no vegetation and frequent ion storms. The giant crystals that grow there absorb energy, but it is not understood how they do so. The entire Delphi Ardu system, consisting of 11 planets, was considered completely uninhabited until the encounter with Portal 6-3.
Frequent ion storms. That can't just be a coincidence. There appears to be some sort of restriction order from Starfleet. Computer, explain this restriction.
A Starfleet directive similar to General Order 7 forbids entering the Delphi Ardu system or attempting to make contact with Portal 6-3.
Starfleet doesn't throw up a no trespassing sign for just anybody.
I suppose it makes sense considering what happened to the Enterprise D.
The technology to capture and hold the Federation flagship would have to be unbelievably powerful. Computer, what else can you tell us about the energy-draining field the Takan used?
The Enterprise D was unable to break free on its own. The precise nature of the technology was never fully understood. Only that the crystalline technology used was beyond the comprehension of then-current Starfleet science.
The engineering team found a quantized spin crystal formation in the shuttle you took to Hotari. They registered tetrametric radiation coming from it.
We have Takan technology on board right now?
We might. I'll run a full analysis in the containment lab.
The Elydians should have crushed the revolt. But if the Hotari have Takan technology and can control it, I see why they're willing to negotiate peace. For all we know, this could be just the beginning. And we're up against something greater than we can imagine.
There's only one way to find out. We need to see what's down there for ourselves.
I might be able to help with that. We've been able to triangulate the source of the ionic interference and warp disruption to a specific mine on Tau. Engineering used the latest data from your shuttle to pinpoint its origin. There.
So we know where to look.
Commander Rydek's right. We need to know what's down there, what the Hotari are hiding, to better understand what we're up against, and to neutralize it if we can.
Captain, embarking on a mission to the Hotari moon would not be viewed favorably by either side. However, given the circumstances, we are...
Alors, vu qu'il n'y avait pas les sous-titres, il a dit que faire une mission sur la lune Hotari allait forcément attirer les foudres de l'autre camp, du coup.
Entirely within our rights to defend ourselves.
I just want to make sure this doesn't blow up in our faces. Which is why I'm thinking of sending Commander Rydek on a covert mission to Tau.
Oh putain, tout le monde a l'air de me regarder en mode...
It would require absolute secrecy. And obviously, it's not without risk.
Ouais, je suis prête.
I'm ready for action, Captain. Just say the word and I'll be there.
I'll admit, I wish I could go myself. I'm hoping Tylus can accompany you. The priority is to avoid detection. It's a calculated risk. The last thing we need is to get caught and then blamed for violating our neutrality and aggravating an already tense situation. We can't afford any mistakes, which is why I've chosen you.
Tyler sera essentiel.
Tylus will be essential to my success. Not only her knowledge of the mines, but her ability to gain access, particularly now that we know which mine we need to get into.
Make sure she understands the need to keep this covert.
She's not going to want her people to know about this.
Get in touch with Tylus and make the necessary arrangements as discreetly as possible.
Bridge to Captain Solano.
Qu'est-ce qui leur a fait plaisir là-haut, Michel? Putain, ça y est, tout le monde est heureux avec moi là. Il y a un perso que j'ai toujours pas rencontré.
The Illidians have moved additional ships to the edge of the Hotari system. Current heading is straight for the homeworld.
Understood.
It would seem we no longer have the luxury of waiting. In that case, may I suggest you and I return to Hotari Prime? Doing so will provide Commander Rydek as much time as possible to complete her mission.
Agreed. We'll hail the Queen's delegation from my ready room. We all know what we need to do. Dismissed.
Ah, cette fois, dismissed a été traduit correctement. Et du coup, YouTube, des bisous. À la prochaine pour Star Trek. Et voilà quoi.